Sarah stared out her window. A moving truck arrived at the empty house. It was about time. The for sale sign had been up for months. Sarah, starved for any excitement in her usual routine, hoped the new neighbors would spice things up. A tall, thin man emerged from the truck. He didn't seem to notice Sarah watching him. He never blinked. The man unloaded box after box. Each one appeared heavy, yet he moved with a disconcerting swiftness. Days turned into weeks, and Sarah saw the man frequently. He never left for work, never picked up groceries. He only received occasional packages, their contents always obscured. The man's presence was unsettling. His unblinking stare seemed to pierce through walls, following Sarah as she moved about her home. He was always watching, even in the dead of night. Sarah would often wake up to see the faint glow of his silhouette in his window, his eyes reflecting the moonlight. She tried to shrug it off as her imagination running wild, but her unease grew. One day she saw the man dragging something large into his basement. It was wrapped in a tarp, its shape obscured, but Sarah swore she saw it move. The image haunted her. Sleep offered no escape. Every night Sarah heard strange noises coming from next door, muffled screams, things being dragged across the floor, a low guttural chanting. Fear gnawed at her sanity. Was she imagining things, or was something truly sinister happening? One night, the whispers grew louder. She pressed her ear against the wall, her heart pounding in her chest. It sounded like someone was pleading for help. Sarah couldn't ignore it any longer. She had to know what was going on. Driven by a mixture of fear and morbid curiosity, Sarah made a decision. She would break into her neighbor's house and uncover the truth. She knew it was reckless, foolish even, but the uncertainty was eating her alive. The next day, while the man was out back, Sarah grabbed a crowbar from her basement and crept next door. Her hands trembled as she picked the lock on the back door. Taking a deep breath, she slipped inside. Section 5. The break-in. The air inside the house was thick with the stench of decay. The curtains were drawn, shrouding the interior in an unsettling darkness. Sarah made her way through the house, each creaking floorboard amplifying her fear. She found strange symbols drawn on the walls, painted in what looked like blood. They were ancient and grotesque, radiating an aura of malice. Fear coiled in her stomach, urging her to turn back, but she pressed on. She had to find out what happened to the people he took to the basement. Finally, Sarah reached the basement door. It was slightly ajar, and a faint pulsating glow emanated from the crack. Her heart pounding in her ears, she slowly pushed the door open. The basement was a charnel house. Body parts were sewn together, creating grotesque, fleshy sculptures that writhed and pulsed with unnatural life. The air was thick with the smell of decay and something else, something alien and utterly horrifying. In the center of it all sat the man, his unblinking eyes glowing with an eerie light. The man turned to Sarah, a grotesque smile spreading across his face. His eyes, once so cold and empty, now burned with a terrifying intensity. He spoke, his voice a raspy whisper that seemed to slither through the air. He explained he wasn't kidnapping people. He was growing them. He held up a pulsating, fleshy organ. It was a heart, but not a human heart. It was something else entirely, something ancient and powerful. He called it the Heart of Abaddon, and he claimed it gave him the power to reshape flesh and bone. Sarah tried to run, but the man was too fast. He grabbed her, his touch sending a jolt of pure terror through her veins. She struggled against his grip, her screams echoing through the chamber of horrors. He dragged her toward a table, his grin widening. She was going to be his next creation. He strapped her down, his touch cold and clammy. The instruments on the table gleamed under the sickly green light. Sarah thrashed against the restraints, her mind screaming for a way out. This couldn't be the end, not like this. As the man raised his scalpel, Sarah's hand landed on a scalpel that had fallen on the floor. Mustering all her strength, she swung her arm back, plunging the scalpel into the man's leg. He roared in pain, momentarily distracted. Sarah ripped herself free from the table and scrambled towards the basement door. She didn't look back as she fled, the man's enraged screams echoing behind her. Sarah burst out of the house and into the night, the image of the basement seared into her mind. She never looked back, the fear of her neighbor, the heart of Abaddon, and the fleshy sculptures forever haunting her nightmares.